Welcome back to Independent Blazers. I'm Dan,
I'm Joe.
and please, folks, like, subscribe, share, bang the notification bell. And today, Joe, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about Mark Zuckerberg, and we're going to go over 8 ways Mark Zuckerberg has changed Meta ahead of President-elect Trump's inauguration. And obviously, this is a massive shift. Of course, real quick, folks, as you know, in 2020, Facebook had, actually up until recently, had fact checkers, fake news fact checkers. And I'm not going to get totally deep into it to bore you, but there's going to be a massive change on free speech. In other words, he's following in the footsteps of Elon Musk, of the head of X. So going with community notes, and we're going to talk about real quick 8 ways. And the one thing this past week, or actually the past few weeks, Mark Zuckerberg he pretty much set off a rapid reversal of policies from DEI initiatives at Facebook to recommending that political content at Threads and Instagram basically will stop fact checking and will go through more of a community standard guideline check. And of course, he finished that week off with nearly a 3-hour interview with Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan's Experience podcast. So some would say he's selling out. Some would say he's just going which way the wind is blowing. And that's also a form of probably selling out. Or maybe some have said he's actually had a change of heart. Obviously, Mark Zuckerberg donated $1 million to President-elect Trump's inauguration fund. And on the Rogan podcast released last Friday, he said he's optimistic about President-elect Donald Trump. And that's a massive shift, Dan, from 4 years ago, even 2 years ago, even a year ago. So, Dan, do you have anything to add before I go into points?
I do, and both analogies from World War II. Okay, as you know, here in Thailand, when they knew the Japanese Imperial Army were coming, they decided, instead of either resisting or just surrendering, they said, oh no, we're on your side. And so Thailand was harmed a lot less than other Southeast Asian nations but as soon as they knew the Allies were coming, they switched sides and said, yeah, see you guys later. Now, some people have called Thais, quote unquote, two-faced for that. And I think, no, they were smart. They were smart about staying alive. But now here's again, with World War II. Let's say someone's in East Germany, then a unified Germany in 1944. Who did you have to salute and, give and praise unquestionably? What person? 1944.
Adolf Hitler.
Right. 1945, after the war is over, there was another. Then you had to praise another person, another powerful, ruthless tyrant. Who was that?
Well, go ahead.
It was Stalin.
Yeah, Joseph Stalin.
Right. Suddenly, people. And now, listen, if you were an average East German, I'd say that was a smart thing to do to stay alive in both circumstances. I don't think the average East Germans who had a brain thought either Hitler or Stalin were good people. But to condemn something and later on condone it or vice versa, I think that's sometimes a survival tactic, and that's what I think Mark Zuckerberg did.
Well, I don't know. That's an interesting observation, but here's the first point out of 8 of them. Fact checkers are out. Point number 1. Mr. Zuckerberg is following in the footsteps, like I said about 2 minutes ago, of MAGA supporter, of head of X, Elon Musk, in getting rid of fact checkers in favor of community notes. Obviously, the left is freaking out over this. He announced on Tuesday that it's time to get back to our roots around free expression. So basically, what he terms it is simplifying our policies and focusing on reducing mistakes. And again, basically, he's letting, you saw like 2 years ago, or even the past year, for example, if there was a political post, whether it's left or right, they would tell you, there would be a fact checker below it. Hey, fake, it was not true, or this is the source, or such and such. And so the right would say, well, they're biased towards the left. Now the left is saying vice versa. Oh, you're just, placating to the right. Look, I'm always in favor of free speech. Can free speech get messy? Yes. The one way to defeat free misinformation is have a healthy debate and prove it wrong. As simple as that. Dan. That's my opinion. So
My opinion too. That's why you and I started this, because you and I didn't always agree on the same things. But when we disagreed, did we call each other names or
no,
hurl insults or no? We saw it and we articulated our own opinions. Sometimes one of us changed, sometimes we didn't, but we at least learned another view. Am I
right,
right?
and yes, and to finish up this first point real quick, he basically Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan's podcast went on to say saying he employed fact checkers that were too biased. Real quick, so he saying it was something out of 1984. So of course, for those of you out there who don't know, it's a famous book.
By George Orwell.
George Orwell. He also has another famous book called Animal Farm. Maybe we'll do a video on it in the future, but check them out real quick. Hate speech, number 2. Hate speech is in. This is now. I don't know if I agree with hate speech is in, but basically, Meta decided to lift the prohibitions against some hate speech on its platform. Basically, there is new guidelines. The Meta platform will allow users to post contents that and again, some of these articles I read with a grain of salt that call woman property, refer to specific ethnic groups as filth, and again, and claim that gay and trans people are mentally ill. Now, again, those are controversial, right? If you're against that, my argument would be, well, why are you against it and
There you
debate
go. There you go.
Simple as that.
That's right.
I don't have to look, I have friends on Facebook. Our producer behind the scenes has friends. You have friends. I don't agree with all of them all the time. I read their posts sometimes, and I roll my eyes. But guess what? It's their right to post it. And if I feel that strongly about it, I'll try to disprove it. It's simple as that.
Do you remember the quote from Voltaire?
Go ahead. I don't remember, but tell the audience.
Voltaire, the French Enlightenment philosopher, once said, "I may disapprove of what you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it."
Now, Meta, a Meta spokesman sent a statement to ESPN statement that Meta will still prohibit some slurs and attack and will enforce against bullying, harassment, and violent policies. So whatever that is, I guess they'll still flag that stuff. All right, so going on to point 2, DEI initiatives are out. Zuckerberg basically decided to end the diversity, equality, and inclusion efforts. So basically, a lot of these DEI hiring procedures that went into effect in corporations and other parts, he's basically ending it. Janelle Gale, Meta's vice president of human resources, wrote the memo and said Meta will still assemble basically diverse teams with differences of opinion and in different skill sets, political views, backgrounds, blah, blah, blah. But it will no longer offer equality and inclusion training. Obviously, some people are against that. I'm for some training when you work for some companies. Obviously, there is ethics guidelines, especially depending on what kind of job you're doing. But I do think a lot, and again, I'll probably get heat for this, but hey, people can disagree. This DEI stuff, we've gone overboard with it. So
Right. See, they took something else. See, now I admit before people could basically get away with bullying someone for their religion, their orientation.
I'm against that. I'm totally against that.
Yeah, so am I. And so I'm saying, but then they went the complete reverse, said this is diversity and inclusion, but then they gave their own rigid way of thinking, saying, you must think this way. This is what it means. And all it's like, well, no, that's not diversity and inclusion. In fact, the fact that you're telling people you have to think an exact way, that lacks diversity in thought.
Are you ready for number 3? This is an interesting one. Tampons are out. Now, some of you that are listening are probably like, what are you saying? This is an article, according to the New York Times, tampons are out. Facilities managers were instructed to remove tampons from men's bathrooms in Meta offices in California, Texas, and New York. Meta previously provided this for non-binary and transgender employees who use the men's room. But now I guess they're taking those out. They have to be removed. So all across California, Texas, New York. The source is the New York Times. So what do you think of that one, Dan?
I'm going to comment on that one. I've just
Okay, well, again, believe it or not, some people may be offended by that. I don't know. To me,
that particular opinion that even the first time I heard from the opposite side, I was just dumbfounded. I just went, you know what? I'm staying out of this one. That some lines I just don't.
again, I'll get some heat for it, but yeah, okay, good. I'm glad they removed it. Okay.
It's not heat for me. It's not fear of heat for me. It's just a loss of words. Like
No, I don't. I look. If you want to be transgender, you're an adult. Do what you want. Okay. I'm not. I don't hate you. I'm not stopping you. But look, some things like, look, come on. I agree.
look, it's like seriously theological beliefs. Now a person can wear whatever religious insignia they want, but when they go imposing and saying, "Hey, workplace, you must respect my religion," it's like, no, not if you're going to go and tell me I must think exactly as you think. No.
Well, trans and non-binary messenger themes are out. Speaking of virtual signaling, Meta also deleted trans and non-binary themes on its Messenger app this week. So basically, again, people will have their own opinions on that. I really, to be quite frank, don't care either way. So, but if some people would be offended, maybe the LGBTQ plus community may be offended. To me, it doesn't make a difference. Political speech on Instagram and Threads is in. So basically, this next point here, Adam Mosseri, the head of Instagram and Threads, announced on Thursday that the platform will be recommending political content to users once again. Now, this is an interesting one. Say you're a Republican or you're a conservative or you're a Democrat and you're very liberal. So based on your worldview or what's on your page or what you like, they'll recommend content going that way. The Facebook or I'm sorry, not Facebook, but Instagram and Threads, you'll be able to adjust your political content control to less, standard, or more. But the default will be standardized. While some users get real political on the platform, and some on the left and right, more on the left, are concerned about the timing with the remover of fact checkers. Basically, it's a major reversal. March 2024. Oh, 2024 is not that. It's pretty recent. So you're talking 180-degree reversal from Meta, from Mark Zuckerberg.
That's less than a year ago. That's March 2024 is less than a year.
So basically, a statement from Meta: our intention is to introduce political recommendations in a responsible and personalized way, which means more for people who want the content and less for those who do not. And there's plenty of people. To be honest with you, I really don't do politics on Facebook. I really don't do much. I don't hardly at all. So to me, I don't even care. Here and now, Dan, I don't know if you know this gentleman. Maybe you heard of him. This is point number 8. You know who Dana White is?
Heard the name. I'm drawing a blank though.
All right, Dana White, basically, and before I get into this final point, he runs the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Basically,
yeah, that's right.
TKO. Yeah. He's a major Donald Trump supporter. He really basically for the past 9 years now, he's been in Donald Trump's corner. And you say, well, what does Dana White have to do with Meta? Well, folks, I'm going to tell you. On Monday, Meta announced that Dana White, the famous Trump ally and president and CEO of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, would join its board of directors. Yet another move that the Washington Post noted could be seen as Zuckerberg's latest maneuver to improve ties with President-elect Donald Trump. White, who was added alongside with John Elklin, the billionaire CEO of the investment company Exor and executive chair of Ferrari. So the announcement comes a week after the former leader of the Liberal Democrats in the UK announced he would leave his post as Meta's policy chief. And that Liberal Democrat in the UK, his name is Nick Clegg. So basically, we used to be dominated by a lot of liberals as conservatives are starting to come in. Now, so Dana White, like I said, Dana White's a big Trump guy. Unapologetically. So he's going to get a seat at the table on the board, and along with a couple other pro-Trump billionaires. So This is a massive change in the past year, Dan. So what do you think?
All right, me personally, I'd rather it not go back and forth between extremes, but moderates of both sides. Because
Right. I'm willing to give it a chance. And again, I'm always accused of, and look, on a lot of things, full disclosure, I am to the right on. But a lot of things I'm also very libertarian on. I'm not, and I won't get into that this video. Maybe we'll do videos of our beliefs at some point. But I'm willing to give this a chance because, like I said, free speech is free speech. It could be messy. If it's wrong, then debate it. Prove it wrong. You can flush it out. As simple as that. The other thing is, I can, look, the right is not innocent in a lot of things, but let's not act like the left is innocent either. Look what the previous owner of Twitter, before Elon Musk, when they, basically the New York Post, a newspaper that's over 100 years old, they basically suppressed that Hunter Biden story about the laptop. And a third of the voters had said, had they known about that, it might have influenced their vote. So I believe in free speech for all sides, and maybe we get big enough on this channel, we can have people with opposing views on here and have respectful conversation. I'm willing to give it a chance, so to see how this goes and how they with the community guidelines and Facebook and Threads and Instagram, and we'll see what happens. We're living in interesting times, Dan. Anything to add?
No, nothing to add at this point. So that's it on my part. So shall I?
Go ahead. Please do.
Okay, folks. Please follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, if you haven't already. And in the meantime, grab your independent mind and blaze.
Have a good one. Take care, everybody.